1. Why does God allow suffering? Most Christians feel this one, but rarely say it out loud. We're afraid the answer might make God look uncaring or make our faith feel fragile. But asking this question doesn't mean you're doubting God. It means you're paying attention. Suffering is confusing. It breaks you open, and it forces you to wrestle with who God is when life hurts. That wrestle is where real faith is formed. God can handle the question, even if you ask it with tears.
2. What if I'm not actually saved? This one hits deep because it exposes something we usually hide, the fear of being close to church but far from God. And no one wants to admit that. But the fear itself is not a sign of being lost. It's a sign that your heart cares about eternity. Instead of running from that question, bring it to God. He never saves anyone halfway. He doesn't play games with your soul. If you're seeking Him sincerely, He's not trying to trick you.
Number 3. Why doesn't God answer my prayers? Most believers have felt this, but feel guilty saying it. We think disappointment with God makes us weak, but it doesn't. It makes you human. When God seems silent, it hurts. It makes you wonder if you're doing something wrong or if God is ignoring you. But unanswered prayer has reasons we don't always see right away. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's God reshaping your heart before He reshapes your situation. Asking this question is honest, not unspiritual.
4. Why does the Old Testament seem harsh? People tiptoe around this one because they don't want to look like they're attacking God's character, but the Old Testament is full of context, judgment, mercy, rebellion, and redemption woven together. If you only read the harsh parts without the story behind them, it feels confusing. It's okay to ask. God is not insecure. He's not threatened by your curiosity. Understanding His justice helps you understand His mercy even more.
5. Why do some Bible verses feel contradictory? This question scares people because it sounds like doubt, like admitting it means the whole Bible might fall apart. But asking it is actually a sign you care about truth. Scripture was written across centuries, cultures, and authors, yet it tells one story. When verses seem to clash, it's usually because we're missing context, genre, or meaning. God isn't bothered when you ask. He invites you to search, not hide your confusion.
6. Is it wrong that I sometimes feel bored with church? Most Christians won't say it out loud, but they've felt it, and they're scared that feeling bored means they're failing spiritually. But dryness doesn't mean you're dead. It just means you're human. Seasons change, passions fade and return. Sometimes the problem isn't your heart. Sometimes it's distraction, exhaustion, or routine. God isn't shocked when your emotions dip. He just wants you to keep showing up while He works on the deeper parts of you.
Number 7. Why do some Christians act nothing like Jesus? We all see it. People who claim Christ but live in ways that push others away. Asking this feels risky because it forces us to face the reality of hypocrisy, and maybe some of it in our own lives. But the truth is, not everyone who says, "I'm a Christian," is following Jesus closely. And even true believers can drift, get hurt, or grow cold. This question matters because it reminds us that Christianity is more than words. It's a life that should start to look like Christ over time.
8. Why do I still struggle with the same sins? This question cuts deep because it touches our shame. We think real Christians should get over it by now. But growth is usually slow and messy. Old patterns don't disappear in a day. God isn't frustrated with your fight. The struggle itself is proof you haven't given up. Sin loses its power over time, but not without resistance. Asking this question doesn't make you weak. Hiding it does.
9. Why does God feel silent? Silence scares us because it feels like distance, like maybe God stepped back or stopped listening. But silence isn't always absence. Sometimes God is teaching you to trust Him beyond feelings. Sometimes He's preparing you for something you can't see yet. And sometimes He's letting you discover how much you've been relying on emotion instead of faith. His silence may feel heavy, but it's never empty.
10. Why is faith so hard sometimes? We're afraid to admit this because we assume everyone else is stronger, more consistent, more together. But faith is hard for everyone at times. Life hits you. Doubt creeps in. Fear pulls you in a different direction. Faith isn't the absence of struggle. It's choosing God in the middle of it. Asking this question doesn't make you a weak Christian. It makes you an honest one.
11. Why did God create people who He knew would reject Him? Most believers stay away from this question because it feels overwhelming. It forces you to think about God's sovereignty, human choices, and judgment all at once. But asking it doesn't mean you're doubting God. It means you're trying to understand His heart. God didn't didn't create robots. He created people with real freedom, even knowing some would walk away. Love is only real when it can be rejected, and even then, he still offers mercy, patience, and the chance to turn back.
12. Why does God seem to bless some people more than others? No one likes to admit this one because it feels like jealousy, but almost everyone has wondered it. You pray, you try, you wait, and someone else seems to get the breakthrough you've been begging for. Asking this doesn't make you envious, it makes you honest. God's blessings don't follow our timelines, and they don't look the same for everyone. Sometimes the blessing you want isn't the blessing you need. Sometimes God is doing work in you first, and sometimes He's teaching you to trust His pace, not your own.
13. Why does the church avoid certain topics? People get nervous with this question because the answer might uncover things we don't want to face. Sometimes churches avoid topics because they're uncomfortable. Sometimes it's culture. Sometimes it's fear. But truth doesn't grow in silence. Asking this question isn't rebellion. It's a desire for clarity. If Scripture speaks on something, the church shouldn't whisper about it. God isn't afraid of the hard conversations. We are.
14. Why does following Jesus feel lonely sometimes? This one is hard to admit because it exposes the side of Christianity no one likes to talk about. There are seasons where obedience costs relationships, where choosing Jesus separates you from crowds you used to fit into, where you feel unseen or misunderstood. Loneliness doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Often it means you're being set apart, and you're never actually alone. God walks with you in ways that people can't.
15. Why do miracles seem rare today? Christians hesitate to ask this because they fear the answer might lower their expectations of God. But miracles haven't disappeared, they just don't always look like the dramatic stories we expect. God still heals, restores, and intervenes. Sometimes we miss it because we're looking for the spectacular and overlooking the supernatural happening quietly around us. Asking this question doesn't weaken your faith. It opens your eyes to how God still moves, even when it's not flashy.